It's Heat Bulls Play-In Tournament, Part 3. That's as many parts as The Godfather. Both seasons are on the line. We'll tell you what to expect next on the special crossover episode.
You are Locked On NBA Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome to a Locked On Heat, Locked On Bulls crossover episode. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. From Locked On Heat, I'm Wes Goldberg here with my co-host David Ramil. Joining us from Locked On Bulls, we've got Hayes and Pat, the designer, for daily content on the Heat or the Bulls. Click that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on your podcast app. Also, your favorite podcast now is a newsletter introducing the Locked On Daily Newsletter. One stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com to start your day with the all-new free Locked On newsletter. Have a great show for you today. It's a crossover between Locked On Heat and Locked On Bulls ahead of tonight's big play-in game. The winner plays on Friday for a chance to advance to the playoffs as the 8th seed. The loser goes home and starts their offseason. So there's obviously a lot at stake. These teams have met before. Like I said in the cold open, fellas, 3 straight years that these teams have played in the play. Should start calling it the Heat Bulls Memorial Play-In Tournament. Like, we own this thing. But at this point, before we jump into some of the matchups, a quick injury update for both sides. For the Heat, Nikola Jovic, Pelle Larsson, and Kevin Love are all listed as questionable. Those guys have not played in a while. I'm not sure they're going to play in this game, but they're listed as questionable. The rest of the Heat's roster is expected to be available. Hayes, do you have the latest injury update from Chicago?
Yes, I do. Josh Giddey has a wrist injury, but he will play in tomorrow's game. Dalen Terry is questionable with a calf injury. Lonzo Ball and Trey Jones are both out with a wrist and foot injury.
Lonzo Ball is out?
I know, right? Who would have thought it?
It's crazy.
What is this, last year?
So, look, the Heat are 0-3 against the Bulls in the regular season. We've talked about it a lot on Locked On Heat. That includes last week's really close game, Tyler Herro, 3-pointer instead of 2-pointer. We've all talked about it. But I want to hand it over to you guys. Pat, what did you learn about the Bulls and how they're going to approach tonight's matchup? And why is it that you feel like the Bulls have the Heat's number?
Listen, I actually think that this is going to be a game that the Bulls approach differently than what we've seen in the past. I think Josh Giddey plays a big difference in all of this. In 3 games this season, he's averaged 26, 10, and 10 versus the Miami Heat. I think that he can be an X factor, whether Kobe White is playing well or not. And listen, I think that's kind of the conversation, why I feel a little bit more confident coming into this season than last season. The Bulls played one of the worst halves of basketball that I've seen the Bulls play all season. That's including a Zach LaVine Bulls team that played some pretty horrible halves. Again, I say one of. I remember that Pistons game. But to me, the fact that by the time Josh Giddey said, all right, let me get myself going, he starts to attack at the end of that second quarter. That's when the Bulls start to go on a little bit more of a run that carries over into the third quarter. And now the rest of the team starts to pick things up. It seemed like there was some struggles from Miami to slow Giddey down. And by the time they started to really focus in on him, you had guys open in the corner, knocking down 3-point shots. You had guys cutting down the lane really well. Vooch cutting down the lane really well and being able to make an impact with that short floater that he has. I think this time around, there are going to be a little bit more difficulties guarding this Bulls team because Josh Giddey just opens up so many different avenues for everybody else to go out there and get their buckets. Modest Buzelis has been playing some of his best basketball, seems to have overcome the rookie slump. To me, those are things that do speak to the Bulls' favor. And dare I say, I actually feel this is going to bite me in the butt, but a little bit confident going into this game that the Bulls do have a lot of answers that maybe Miami doesn't know the question to just yet.
David, he's right, man. They have not had answers for the Chicago Bulls team all season long. What are they going to do to slow down Magic Johnson? Sorry, Josh Giddey.
Yeah. I don't think you got to worry about that bite coming anytime soon because I just don't think Miami's going to figure anything out. Like we talked about this, and as much as I'd like to be able to hype up Spo and that he'll come up with some sort of a plan, like the second that I saw Giddey was available, I was like, all right, that basically means it's over. It's a wrap. So he's been that good against Miami. Like the shooting percentages are ridiculous, but his playmaking ability, the speed at which he plays with, everything. Like he's just unstoppable and Miami just doesn't seem to have anybody on the team that can defend him or make things difficult for him. And that being the case, as you said, Like he's got all this playmaking ability. You've got those shooters open there. Like Buzelis turns into like a 55% shooter from the three, especially in those corners. We saw that corner as Wes talked about that one play where Tyler missed the 3-pointer on the other end, and Buzelis knocks in the 3-pointer, 6-point swing there. He's been really good. Giddey has, Buzelis has. Those players just seem to play at such a high level versus Miami. And you mentioned Kobe White, whether or not he's an X factor or not. And I tend to think that he is. Like I really do believe that he's going to have a bounce back game. As bad as he was in the last matchup versus Miami, it seems like he's almost poised for a breakout. And that being the case, that's just one more weapon in the arsenal that already seems to have Miami's number so completely figured out. So I don't know. You want to look forward to this game from the Heat perspective, but Chicago has done such a good job of figuring things out and playing their way and kind of totally taking Miami out of whatever semblance of an identity that they might have had this season. I'm not too concerned. If I was looking at this from a Bulls perspective, I wouldn't be too concerned about the matchup.
Jesus.
David, it's funny you bring it up because the Bulls' perspective on this is literally you say Kobe White, this is him poised for a breakout game. We've been saying that 3 play-ins in a row now.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like that is kind of where we're at.
All right. I hear you.
Even in the 2022-23 season, where we also went into the play-in matchup against the Miami Heat, 3-0 against them. In the regular season, we beat them by an average of almost 14 points, average throughout 3 games, and we still got our butts kicked in the play-in tournament. So
Max Strus ain't on the roster no more. He's in Cleveland.
I love that you start with Max Strus and not Jimmy Butler there. That's great.
But also when it comes down to it as well, like Kobe is an X factor in this game. And against the Miami Heat this season, he's shooting 20% from 3. And while he's averaging 20 points, he's shooting like 39% from the field. So Giddey's great and Giddey's amazing. Giddey's been very, very consistent. But we know that the inconsistencies of Kobe White have always been one of those things that has bit the Bulls at times before. So I'm not going to this game as confident as Pat. I do trust that the team is going to play well. Giddey's been great. Giddey's accounted for about 35% of the Bulls' total offense when you factor in points scored and points generated off assists since the middle of February. That's how good Josh Giddey has been. But Kobe's been inconsistent shooting from 3. Modest has been inconsistent at times, and he's going to either have Bam or somebody else on him that's going to cause him to be a little bit inconsistent there. He's going to have to really learn how to figure it out. So while I do think the Bulls have played the Miami Heat as well as you can, we've also seen this story before. Yeah, the personnel is a little bit different, but I'm not going to use regular season success to feel overly confident about it because we know one thing about this Bulls team, even with this, inconsistencies are still there at times. They've just been a little bit less here over the stretch since the All-Star break.
Hayes, let me ask you something because the Heat have not seen a Bulls team and beaten them this year, and the pace has really given Miami problems this season. But the Bulls are given they're second in pace in the league. It's not just against the team that plays with the 4th slowest pace in the league. They usually have a pace advantage. When the Bulls do lose, what's I can't believe I'm talking about them like they're the Celtics. But when the Bulls do lose, like what is it why do they lose?
We usually generally lose because teams are able to stop Kobe and Josh Giddey from penetrating. They both average, I think, about 16 to 18 drives per game each. And if you stop them from being able to get into the paint and create or score off penetration or get to the free throw line, it really stops up the whole Chicago Bulls offense. So that's the key to really stopping the Bulls there.
David, the more I think about it, we floated this idea on Locked On Heat. It feels like they've got it. I know Spoelstra wants to stick with his starting lineup with Herro and Burks in the backcourt. It would not shock me if there was a one-off, hey, let's sub Davion Mitchell into that starting lineup for Alec Burks probably and have him because you need somebody at that point of attack, and they just didn't have it last game.
I mean, Mitchell certainly, brought the defense off the bench, but what are you saving it for? Like, it's not time it's time to change your rotations completely. Like, you're not saving anything. You're not kind of hiding anything. At this point in time, I think Mitchell needs to be able to play his defense. I mean, you could see Haywood Highsmith getting some extended minutes to it. I mean, it boils down really to Andrew Wiggins and his capacity to switch off from either guarding Giddey or being able to pick up Buzelis and make things a little bit more difficult. The Kobe White matchup is an interesting one there because that kind of leaves. I think Buzelis, as much as you point to the drives to basket, I think Buzelis and that 3-point ability there, and especially his ability to kind of get open from those corners, given Giddey's playmaking, those are the 2 things that look most dangerous to me. You guys know the team best. and that kind of leaves Herro on White. And so that's not exactly a matchup that favors Miami either. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Erik Spoelstra change the lineup pretty dramatically. And we'll see whether or not Highsmith, as perhaps one of their better perimeter defenders, might be able to get a little extended playing time and make things a little bit more difficult for Chicago.
Coming up, we're going to talk about who needs to step up for each team and who on the opposing team should the Heat and the Bulls be most afraid of. We'll do that next year on this Locked On crossover between Locked On Heat and Locked On Bulls.
Today's episode is brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about it. When was the last time you had a service emergency? If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. And that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications all through an app on your phone or computer. You don't need to carry 2 phones. With Open Phone, you can manage business calls and texts from one app. Whether you're at your desk or on the go, they've got a shared inbox so your team can jump into any conversation without missing a beat. And their AI call transcripts and summaries save you time on follow-ups and ensure that you never lose track of customer interaction. Open Phone is offering listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you're switching from another service, Open Phone will even port your existing numbers over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today's episode is also brought to you by Amazon Fire. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as early as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. You can play high-quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. If you already have a console, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, and allowing you to take your or your kids' games wherever you plug in. Listen, it makes things so much easier. This is the deal for you. If you haven't tried it already, make sure you head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd generation, and Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to a Locked On Heat, Locked On Bulls crossover episode for Heat and Bulls content 5 days a week. Subscribe to both shows on YouTube and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Let's take a look at some of these individual players and matchups in this game. When you look at this matchup, Pat, who needs to step up for the Bulls to win this game?
Listen, it has to be Coby White. That's Hayes mentioned it. He is kind of the X factor. The stigma on Coby has been his inconsistencies. I think this is probably the most important play-in series that Coby White has been in, because there is, in my mind, if you show up in this game, if you win this game, show up in probably playing Atlanta. In the Atlanta matchup, we've got a theme going in the play-in here. That means money in Coby White's pocket. That means belief that, hey, you are a playoff threat. That means belief that this duo together works. And so I think Coby White, to win this game, Josh Giddey can do a lot. Modest Buzelis can step up, and there's going to be ancillary pieces there. But there's no surefire piece that puts the game away than Coby White. You saw that in the fourth quarter when nobody could get things going, and Coby finally got it going in the last matchup. Just getting himself going with some tough floaters, getting to the bucket. He kind of turned into a jump shooter most of the game, and that's not Coby White's game. To me, Coby White is best when he's driving to the basket, when he's getting to the free throw line. Miami's going to be very aggressive in this game, like they always are in the play-in. The whistle's probably going to be a heck of a lot looser, so Kobe's going to have to fight through some tough defenses. But if he can find his way to the free throw line, and if he can get some of those tough layups at the bucket, you mentioned it, David, the matchup between him and probably Tyler Herro is going to be one where he has the advantage, especially with the quick first step. You got to take advantage of that, and if he shows up with how Giddey has been playing consistently versus the Heat this season, I think the Bulls have this one in the bag.
Hayes, do you agree?
I agree. Yes, we need Kobe White to be good, but I think, Kobe even putting up 20 points, even on bad shooting, is still we've still been able to win games. Surprisingly enough, I'm picking Kevin Herter here. In games where Kevin Herter hits 3 or 4 3-pointers, we're undefeated. We have 2 losses in those games. And Kevin Herter in wins, he shoots 48% from the field and almost 40% as well from 3. So we need Kevin Herter. Kevin Herter is one of the best and purest 3-point shooters we have on the team. Kobe White can get hot from 3. Kevin Herter is a 3-point shooter. And I think when you look at creating off drives like Giddey and Kobe do, you're going to need somebody to stretch the floor, especially with the Miami Heat going to his own defense. It's either going to be Modest, it's either going to be Kevin Herter. Right now, I'm going to put it on Kevin just because he's the veteran. So I think Kevin Herter and his output is hugely important for the Bulls in this game against the Heat.
So Chicago will start Giddey as long as he's healthy and he's available, and that's what the injury report says. Giddey, White, Herter, Buzelis, Vucevic, right?
Yep.
I think Miami will try to hide Tyler Herro on Herter, but Herter's going to move off ball. He's going to do some stuff, and now Herro's going to have to chase him around a little bit. But if they do end up starting Davion Mitchell and then they have Andrew Wiggins, I think those guys are probably the primary assignments on Giddey and Kobe White in whatever order. And then you've got Bam on Vucevic, and then Ware on Buzelis, or maybe they put. I mean, in the last matchup they put Ware on Vucevic, and they had Bam out guarding on the perimeter, so they could go that way too. But it didn't really work all that well. So I do wonder if Miami if Erik Spoelstra will flip the matchups a little bit in this game. I suspect he probably will, just because it clearly did not work last week. David, who do you
bench? Like we're talking through this. Do you bench Ware?
No, I think you bench Burks.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, in terms of those matchups, like, I mean, you just break it down there. Like, I wouldn't want Bam out on Buzelis, and I wouldn't want Ware on Vucevic.
Oh, I see.
I think one of the two. I mean, obviously the answer is Ware. As much as a matchup advantage as he might create, like, I think it might be something to consider benching him. Like, it just doesn't work in terms of being. I would put Highsmith out there just for his ability to kind of stick with Buzelis and be a lot more switchable. Otherwise, you've got this one player out there who's not really capable of making that transition as easily. And I mean, the Ware versus Vucevic matchup, I think it tends to favor Chicago too. So aside from benching Burks, or making that kind of change there, that's a no-brainer. But I think you might have to go one level deeper in terms of making a serious change to that starting lineup.
That's interesting.
Yeah, to your point, David. I mean, like, that's what Billy did in the last game on the offensive end. He tried to, as much as he could, to get that matchup with Ware on Vooch and try to get those screens. Early on, it was Vooch on Bam, and Bam was being Bam, and he was making sure that Vooch was not getting those easy floaters. Khalil Ware didn't defend those nearly as well.
All right. So Erik Spoelstra at practice today, I'm going to read you a quote, because I think the big question is, if you're Miami, how do you slow the game down? Or do you try to keep up with Chicago's pace and just play that style better? Spo said, "We don't want to play a prevent offense or a prevent type game. We want to attack this game. You can dance with the fire, but you've got to be smart with it." That's a new Spoism, David. "We don't want to play at just a snail's pace to slow them down. They'll still score and find a way to score," end quote. So, David, we asked the question earlier this week on Locked On Heat, like, how is it going to be? Do we try to just slow the game down and play the game to those kind of terms, or do we just try to play with Chicago and play in the open floor? And it sounds like Spo is saying, no, we're going to try to beat the Bulls at their own game. And I think, to your point, maybe that is hinting at some more dramatic lineup changes. I don't think it will, personally. Spo has been pretty comfortable with the Ware-Bam matchup regardless of the match. But then again, nothing's been at stake like it has been in this game. So maybe he could just do a one-game sort of swap.
It just, it goes against everything that Spo's always done and said, like, in terms of any matchup, even against a superior or inferior opponent in the playoffs or anything like that. It's always about creating your own, establishing your identity first, playing your game, and then forcing your opponent to adjust. So if I had to guess, I'm going to guess that he's probably going to stick with the same old crap he usually rolls out there and hope for the best and see whether or not they can contend with Chicago in their pace. But and they might make some changes. Have you guys seen that team? To find a way to score is not easy. So, I mean, playing at Chicago's pace doesn't speak to something that Miami is capable of doing at a proficient level, even in a playing situation. So I think they'll probably try to drag the game through the mud, slow things down, make things a little bit more difficult. And that might still lead to that kind of change in the lineup just because they'll have another plus defender out there. And Highsmith, that would be my guess, to see whether or not he can kind of make things a little bit more difficult. And then you generate points where you can and see what happens. And maybe you'll find a way to win a 103 to 102 matchup against Chicago.
When I think about who needs to step up for Miami, I go right to Tyler Herro. The one thing that Herro is going to see the entire game is drop defense. He's going to see it. Even when Chicago goes to zone, it's essentially sort of the same thing. They operate it sort of the same way. They're going to, if you can get Herro in a pick and roll with whoever Vucevic's guy is in the moment, Herro saw a ton of drop defense last week. And if he just goes like, I don't know, if he shoots 60% against that drop and goes off for 30-something points, I mean, it's a playing game. Like, that could swing it. That could be it in this game, and it could just be as simple as that. I want to talk about fear factors really quick before we go to the break here. One guy who scares you the most on the other team. Anybody can just jump in here, but let's be quick with it.
The guy that scares me the most on Miami is Bam. Defensive ability is the game changer. I mean, he can shut down all of this fun stuff that we're talking about. Kobe White to the bucket, Josh Giddey to the bucket. Bam Adebayo can change all of that. He's a defensive player of the year candidate every single year, and this is playoff time where most of these Bulls haven't been.
What about you?
I agree with Pat there. Definitely Bam. Bam's the one that scares me the most. Not to say that Tyler Herro can't absolutely fill it up, but Bam's versatility definitely scares me.
David, who scares you on Chicago?
Aside from White, I got to go with Kevin Herter. He just seems like the guy who could just spark and maybe just stretch the floor to such a high degree that it makes things a little bit more difficult. I know that's not the only part of his game, which is why they'll attack him and try to get him into foul trouble earlier. But if he can just, if he can string 4 or 5 threes and crucial moments of the game, that's it. It's a wrap for Miami.
I mean, it's Kobe White for me, not to be too basic, but when he starts getting going and that three-pointer is falling and he starts smiling and that afro starts bouncing around, it's just the game's over. It's game over for Miami in that moment. But we're going to make our final predictions for the game, ask whether any of these teams could advance to the playoffs after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, well, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. And let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. You've always had some issues with underwear, right? Whether it's fit or comfort, just finding the right style. Well, Skims will change all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with a perfect balance of comfort and style. I tried the Skims boxer brief, and I'm hooked. Let me tell you, they're perfect for an active lifestyle. They move with you. They never lose their shape, and they stay in place all day. Whether you're working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable underwear that you'll ever own. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. So shop Skims Men at skims.com/LockedOnNBA at Skims stores, and let them we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show, either Locked On Heat or Locked On Bulls, in the drop-down menu that follows. Make sure to go to skims.com/LockedOnNBA. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to a crossover episode of Locked On Heat and Locked On Bulls. The playoff race is heating up. The Heat and the Bulls, their season is winding down. Can either of them secure a playoff spot? Stay in the know with the Locked On podcast newsletter and get a chance to win one of these amazing prizes by subscribing. A $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your Sports Cave setup, a $300 Game Time gift card, or a $200 Fanatics gift card. Sign up between April 7th and April 30th, 2025 to be entered. The Locked On podcast newsletter delivers real-time updates, expert analysis, and playoff insights tailored for you. Subscribe now for free at LockedOnDaily.com. All right, before we get to our predictions, the Heat and the Bulls, they have to win this game, and then they have to win another game on Friday night in order to advance to the playoffs to get the 8th seed, and then you get the honor of playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. But can the Bulls, do we feel like the Bulls can advance to the playoffs? Is winning 2 games on the road possible for the Chicago Bulls team? And then what would that look like in a potential first-round matchup?
Well, we're hosting the first game, so the first game's at home. So it'll just be one game on the road. It depends if that second game is against the Atlanta Hawks. Absolutely, I'm a little bit more afraid of the Orlando Magic and their defense and the fact that they're back looking like the team I thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season that they fell off from. I'm confident coming into this Miami game. It's going to be a fun game, and we always play Atlanta close. So it just so happens to be the same 2 teams we always face off against the play-in, but I think the Bulls do have a chance to get into the playoffs this year. You're muted, Pat.
Oh, my bad. I don't hate that happen. Hayes, how long ago did I say the Bulls going to the playoffs?
February 18th, I think it was.
We watched the game. I want to say was it coming off of the Miami game?
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was coming off of the Miami game. And I sat down. I looked. No, it was coming off Orlando. And I looked in the camera. I was like, the Bulls are going to the playoffs, y'all. Buckle up. This is going to be another season of you tankers being mad that we're not tanking and trying to bottom out. Listen, the Bulls have a competitive mindset, and they finally have a team that has a cohesiveness with the style of play that seems to actually fit together. Vooch is actually fitting in with this new group better than he ever did with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. There's more ball movement. I think the biggest thing that the Bulls have right now that I would say is an advantage, oddly enough, talking about this Heat game and talking about not so much Atlanta, but kind of the Heat is, I would say the Bulls are the best defensive team of the three of these teams in the play in here, because there's just a new commitment to actually closing out, to actually trying to play the defense the way that Billy Donovan is telling them to play it so often with the Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan Bulls. They just left guys wide open in the corner. Y'all know this. Tyler Herro cooking us. Max Strus cooking us. Whoever it is, just standing in the corner wide open, knocking down threes. This is a different Bulls team, and because of that, I do think that they find their way through Miami. I think Atlanta is I don't even know if they're trying. You know what I mean? They're an interesting team in the play-in themselves, and I think Cleveland in 5, as Shannon Sharp would say.
David, what do you think about the Heat here? They have to win back-to-back games on the road because that's how the play-in works. Can they do it?
Yeah, I guess mathematically it's possible. We talk about this. I just look, the season has been so difficult to predict, and there have been so many ups and downs in terms of they came into camp and you thought there was going to be higher expectations, and it seemed like everything was copacetic with the Jimmy Butler situation, and of course that didn't last very long. And then you've got the tension and the drama and the kind of dark cloud permeating through everything and hanging over everyone's head, and then that's finally alleviated, and you think, oh, you know what, they make a smart trade. You get a good proven player in Andrew Wiggins. You get some nice complementary pieces in Davion Mitchell and Kyle Anderson. Hell, this could work. Well, it doesn't. They look like crap. They look terrible. They played badly. They couldn't figure anything out. They really couldn't mesh well integrating these new players onto the team. And everybody seemed to struggle as a result. And then, of course, they go on their 10-game losing streak. And then they go into 6-game winning streak. And then it's like, okay, maybe they figure things out. I don't know. I don't see this Miami team, and I can't figure out exactly what it is that they're playing for. I would think that ultimately, given Erik Spoelstra and his use of motivational tactics in the past, he would try to force them to realize this is your chance to prove that this is your team now, that your success in the past postseason had nothing to do with Jimmy Butler. And if that being the case, if Bam and Bam particularly and Tyler somehow rise to that challenge and carry this team, then yes. And it all depends. If I see that intensity, and if somehow, and I don't think it's possible, but if somehow they just smack Chicago upside the head, then this is a different team than what I've seen all year. And then from there, I have no idea what could happen next. They might be able to go up against Atlanta or Orlando and find a way to win there. They might even feel confident enough to challenge, Cleveland. That sounds ridiculous, but this is what this group is capable of. They have playoff performers. They have people who have been in the NBA Finals playing on this team. You would think that with that experience, they might be able to show something a little bit more confidently. But it all depends on whether or not they look forward to that Chicago matchup with a renewed sense of purpose and identity.
So Let's tell you,
real though, this is the tough game, right? Like none of us think we're losing to Atlanta.
Right. Or Orlando.
I'm not
right?
scared
This
of
is the game.
Zachary Shea. Now watch this. He drops 50.
George
Nang's going to kill all of us.
But I'm not like, this is the tough game. Like we get through this game. I'm flipping through my Cleveland preview to try and see what they got going on. I'm not worried about Atlanta. Orlando scares me. Orlando's a scary game.
You're scared of them scoring 80 on you?
I'm scared of
keeping you to 75 while you score 80. That's
I'm scared of the only actual star player in this whole play-in tournament going off in Paolo Banchero.
Fair enough. I will tell you, if Miami does make it through these playoffs, I know that they are really confident against the Cavs. Just being in that locker room, they're confident about being. I'm not saying that they should be. I'm just telling you that they feel good about it.
Yeah.
The Heat over the last 15 games are 5th in net rating. They are 8th in offensive rating and 4th in defensive rating. That's over the last 15 games. It's right where about Erik Spoelstra started talking about, hey, I think I'm kind of starting to figure this thing out with the new team and the new rotation and all of that stuff. They're 8-7 though in those last 15 games, so they're basically 500. Nobody has lost more close games this year than Miami. So there's evidence to say that, hey, a couple of those close games swing the other way, and maybe the Heat are not even in the play-in tournament. And maybe when you pop open the hood, there's some better stuff there than maybe the record shows. I'm with you, David, though. I think they need to come out with the same intensity that they had in the Jimmy Butler return game. And look, that gives me a little bit of confidence with Miami in this game. When they've had something to prove emotionally, pride, when all that kind of stuff is on the line, they have stepped up the one time this year where that has been the case. So, we'll see. Let's get into some of the predictions here. We'll start with Hayes. But give me a prediction of who's going to win, but also give me something else. Give me something else that's going to happen in this game, a stat, an event, something.
I'll say Bulls win a close one. I think it's going to be not a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be something like 98-102. Chicago Bulls win this game. Crazy stat.
Doesn't have to be crazy.
No. Okay.
It just has to be right.
Okay. Bam gets a 30-point double-double.
A 30-point double-double.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the Heat still lose?
Yeah.
Dang.
That means
Everybody else scores 0 points.
Herro did not show up.
yeah, exactly. Pat, give me a prediction.
I do have a Bulls win. I feel a little bit more confident going into this game, and it may bite me in the butt, but it is what it is. I'm not playing. I'm gonna have a 110-98 game. Bulls win this game. My bold prediction is this is going to be the game where Kobe White goes ballistic. This is going to be the game where Kobe White finally versus the Miami Heat says, it's my time to be the face of this team.
David?
I feel like David has.
I think we can all predict where David's prediction is going to be.
No. You know what? I
do it.
I convinced myself. I'm picturing Spo in that locker room and just firing everybody up and lighting a fire specifically.
So at practice today, at practice today, the line was, "What a time to be alive." That was it. It was, "This is a great time to be alive." The 9-10 play-in matchup. I can't imagine anything better.
I don't even know what that means. I don't know. It's just like I get Spo's like embracing the challenge. This is where we want to be. Backs up against the wall. All the same cliche crap he always rolls out there. But at the same time, how that cliched stuff works. And he's going to go in there and he's going to look at Bam in the eyes and he's going to tell him, this is your effing team right now. You got to carry this. And so to Hayes' prediction, we might see that big Bam game. And if that's the case, I also think Andrew Wiggins shows up because this is a guy that we saw step it up in the NBA Finals against Jaylen Brown. You don't have to shut down. If he could do a good job of shutting down or at least limiting Jaylen Brown, hell, Kobe White should be easy to challenge. So you know what? I'm changing my mind. Heat, baby. Let's do it.
Finally.
That's easy to do when you have one of the greatest coaches of all time.
It's easy to talk yourself into it.
Only one of them is on the Hall of Fame, and it ain't Erik Spoelstra, so, you know.
That's true.
Yeah.
I am going Heat win. Final score 120-117. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and the Heat still pull it out. And Bam and Herro combine for 50 points at least. Oof. And that's how they win. It's going to be those two guys stepping up. This has been the Locked On Heat, Locked On Bulls crossover. Check out Locked On Heat for the post-game reactions. Check out Locked On Bulls for post-game reactions after the game. We'll talk to you then.